Now, Asia First with Arnold and Andrea Heng.
Let's talk about bright and shiny things now, shall we? So-called a woman's best friend. I don't know whether it still is it?
Yes, I guess. We have
Okay.
a lot of best friends, but diamonds is one of them.
Okay, so you might be excited to hear that the Singapore International Jewelry Expo is back. Starts today, goes on till Saturday. It's been around for a long time. This is the 18th edition.
Yeah, wow. So there is demand, I guess.
Mm.
Well, this year's edition is said to be the largest. And guess what, Arnold?
Yes.
There's a 31.82 carat emerald gemstone that's on sale.
I don't want to know how much.
Oh,
In
you
fact-
could afford this.
No,
I think you
really?
could afford this. Yeah, it's 1.5 million US dollars.
I definitely cannot afford this. Which brings up, an interesting question because, it comes around from time to time, about whether or not buying diamonds should be something you consider doing, not to win someone's heart, but as a potential investment. Is it a good idea these days? Keep in mind, that technology has also allowed us to I guess, manufacture artificial diamonds.
Yes, lab diamonds, which is very, very popular right
Right.
now. So let's speak to Paul Zimnisky. He's CEO at Paul Zimnisky Diamond Analytics, and he's speaking with us from New York. Hi, Paul.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on the show, Paul.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the biggest edition of the Singapore International Jewelry Expo and the 18th edition. Does this mean there's a higher demand for diamonds and precious gems? Does it signal that at all?
Well, so I would say the Asian jewelry market in particular is recovering following the pandemic lockdowns and the closures last year. So I would imagine that, demand will be up significantly, at least on a relative year-over-year basis. That said, this is an international trade show, and jewelry demand in the Western world is actually beginning to slow a little bit after record years in 2021 and 2022. Western economies are slowing in 2023 as central banks try to slow the economy to quell a problem of too hot inflation.
Right.
So I think we're actually going to see strength in the Asian market, and that's going to offset some of the weakness coming from the demand from the Western world economy, if that makes sense. And I think that's what we'll see reflected in the trade show.
Right. Paul, this part of the world, we don't hear a lot about people buying diamonds and trading diamonds the way they might trade stocks and gold. Can you tell us whether this has changed where you are in the West, and also whether or not you see this changing in Asia as well over the years?
Yeah, so the inherent challenge with diamonds, there's just so many different categories. There's, tens of thousands of different categories. So I would say diamonds lack fungibility, which means they aren't easy to trade because of that. That said, if someone feels they could buy a diamond from someone and resell it for more, they will.
Okay.
So there's always a market, but it's really not that robust of a market we're talking about. Secondhand sales of diamonds.
Which would make it quite difficult, would it not, for I guess a retail investor who has access, if you like, to price transparency, a secondary market, if he wanted to buy bonds or stocks?
Yeah, I think if you're interested in diamonds for that reason, you really have to think high end, right? We're talking, diamonds that are in the hundreds of thousands of US dollars, millions of dollars, that, or it has to be like something vintage from, a famous brand like a Tiffany or a Cartier or a Van Cleef, or a piece of jewelry that has a provenance, that has a story. The sort of stuff that you see that makes headlines when it's sold at auction. That's I think the kind of stuff you want to think about if you're interested in diamonds as an investment.
Right. So, Paul, you're saying that if I like diamonds, for example, and if I'm buying small pieces like 1 carat, 3 carats, that's just not going to work out. There's no secondary market for that kind of thing, right?
There is a secondary market, but it's very thin. It's a liquid market. There's a lot of trade friction, meaning the cost to resell it tends to be very high. It's not liquid, so when you want to sell it, it may not be able to easily find a buyer. So, that's something to keep in mind. But again, when we talk about even, a 2, 3, 4, 5 carat colorless diamond, they're still very rare and they're still very valuable. And over time, they have kind of kept up with inflation. So even if you take a haircut because of the transaction costs, if you've had it long enough, you're probably gonna do okay just because they tend to keep up with inflation.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm
Right.
assuming it's the same for gemstones and lab diamonds as well?
Yeah, so I mean, lab diamond, that's a whole other category. It's a manufactured product. It's man-made. I mean, we can make as many of those as we want. We can make them as big as we want, for the most part, in the color that we
Okay.
want, the clarity that we want. So it's a different market. That's a manufactured product. Natural diamonds are a non-renewable natural resource.
All right. Okay. I mean, what I'm taking away right now, Paul, is that it's still a little bit difficult for a retail investor to consider diamonds as they, look at their portfolios apart from the larger, brighter, and bigger ones. But do you see the potential for retail investments in precious stones and diamonds down the road at all? I mean, what needs to be done?
Well, I mean, I think what's unique about it, I mean, I think you can look at it as more of maybe a hard asset, store of value than an investment, right? You could wear it, you can enjoy it, and
Yep.
you're still going to maintain, most or some of its value. As far as like a liquid investable product, I mean, there are, some options out there, but it's just the inherent challenge, has to do with the liquidity and the trading
okay.
liquidity and the costs, with trading that are
Right.
associated
So,
with
so
it.
a huge component, it appears to me, would be the fact that you have to love it, the particular piece that you have in mind, and you want to keep it, you want to show off, and you want to, I suppose, know that you own something of value to yourself.
Yeah, I think for most people, that's probably the best way to approach this.
Right. Paul, we got to go. Thank you very much for talking to us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks.
And that's Paul Zimnisky. He's CEO at Paul Zimnisky Diamond Analytics.